Good morning, Ayrton. Nice to meet you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Carina de López. I'm working at iSquare. I'm a unit lead user experience and partner at the company. And I will show you today how we do automotive UX research with OEMs and with our clients. So let's start. Let me see. So first of all, some brief words about who we are. We are iSquare. We are on the market for 20 years. Maybe some of you already know us. We are working with 72 employees in our headquarters in Berlin. We also have some small satellite offices around the globe, as you can see. And the main thing about iSquare is that we are doing implicit research, which means that we are not only asking consumers what they think, and we are not only doing questionnaires, we also look beyond the surface. We also look about their perception, their emotions, and so on. We are working in 3 teams. We have a brand and media experience team. They are working with digital marketing, brand, and advertising. Me and my team, we are doing user experience research, which we are talking about today. We are looking at the user experience and the interaction of all digital interfaces and also physiological products, haptic products, and in-car solutions. Our third team is the shopper experience team. They are basically doing point of sale research. So we have a broad selection of clients. Just briefly show you with whom we are working since many years. Yeah, we are happy to support blue chip clients from many industries. And let's dive into automotive research. So the clients we are working with in automotive research are listed here above. Yeah, you may ask yourself what we are doing as an external vendor in terms of automotive research. We are mainly working on digital interfaces inside the car, in the cockpit, infotainment systems, embedded infotainment systems, but also connected car solutions when it comes to connected car and customer portals on a digital basis. We are evaluating HMI concepts, real driving situations. We are doing design evaluation in the interior car and exterior design. And we are also benchmarking the user experience of different digital solutions. Where do we do that? We are working in the studio. So we have our own labs here in Berlin. We are working in the simulator, in field, online, and also in virtual reality. How do we do that? We are mainly doing traditional market research methods with which each of one might know. So we are interviewing users. We are talking to drivers and consumers. We are asking them to fill out questionnaires, but we also observe them a lot. We observe a lot what they are doing in real driving situations and also static driving situations, which is very important to get a good impression on how their mental model is, how they solve certain tasks, and how they deal with the car. Also, we are looking at their emotional status, at their behavior, and their gut feeling when they are evaluating certain products. So let's continue a little bit with our methodological framework we are talking about, and let's dive deeper into my presentation. So I'll just switch off my camera then. So what is the theoretical background of our work? All of you that work in user experience might know that user experience is more than usability. It's not the basic usefulness, efficiency, understandability of nowadays products. So the users of today, which are more and more becoming digital natives, they actually take usability as a hygiene factor, which is a basic requirement for usage. So if you create a product that is easy to use, you won't keep users using your product, and you won't be able to convince them with your product. So actually you have to get a little bit more up to this pyramid I'm showing here. Which counts are the hedonic factors, is the whole experience that users have with the product, psychological factors like the design, the trust they have in a certain product, very important also with brands in the automotive industry. Also regarding fun, fun is a very important aspect when using an interactive product. You may think, well, how do they really have fun when using my product? When buying a certain connected car service, do they really have fun? And we know that they have fun. We are looking at their emotions while using a product and also while driving. Of course, there might be some situations where the automotive experience can actually be fun, and also where the interface can deliver joy of use. So this is just the background, and when we put this all into a theoretical model, which is the basic of our research, we know that 3 dimensions are actually having a great influence on the way I'm using a product. Let's say there is a cognitive dimension. This is everything which I can actually talk about, right? Which I can state explicitly. I can say, well, this product, this car is very utile for me. This feature is very, very helpful for me in everyday life. I can identify with it. I have fun using it. So this is everything I can explicitly talk about. Then there's this whole implicit and emotional dimension, right? So these are all the underlying reasons why I'm using a certain product, but I cannot really talk about. So this is, for example, my need for status, why I'm buying a BMW. So this is actually something which has a lot to do with status, with safety, and there are all these implicit underlying variables which we maybe cannot talk about explicitly. And the behavior, which is very, very important. All of you who are doing usability research know that the behavior is crucial when it comes to the attitude towards usage. So if the product is easy to use, if I am successful with using the product, I have a feeling of success, the product is reacting to my actions, it is error prone. So this is something which also has a great extent on the whole attitude towards usage and which influences the actual use of a product. So taking this technology acceptance model, how we call it, into account, I would like to talk a little bit more about the implicit dimension, which is something which is very important for our research. And I would like to show you how rationality is actually limited. So in which situations our mind cannot talk about what we are actually thinking and seeing. For this, I brought you some interactive examples, and I would like to invite you to play these games with me. Of course, it's not so easy now as I can't see you all, but everyone can do this game for him or herself, and let's see how it works out. So talking about implicit, here you can see this sentence. It's a quite, common sentence, whatever. I would like you to count the F's that you can see in this text. So please count the number of F and note down what you are thinking. You have 30 seconds to do so. Or maybe 15 seconds are enough. So please note down the number of F's. So I'll ask you who counted 1 F. I can't see now the results, but 2 F's, 3 F's, maybe you counted 4, 5 F's, or 6 F's even, or maybe some of you counted 7 F's. I'll show you the result. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 F's in this sentence. So I'm sure, as I did this game before. I'm sure some of you did not count the 6 Fs. So why is that? Here you can see a short video of a person reading this sentence. And this is a basic eye tracking. And there you can see the blue dot where the eye is pausing, is lasting. This is actually a fixation. And at this moment, we are processing information. But as you can see, these blue lines, these are quick movements. These are rapid eye movements called saccades. In this moment, we don't process any kind of information. So, and what is happening with this sentence is that there are some Fs that we basically overlook. So in the short words of offs, this is a basic sense. So our mind works like this. This is the way we are reading. And you have to imagine that customers are reading the interface of your product in the same way. So next game, please look for the N in the following image. So you might need some time to find the N. Some of you maybe already found it. The N is here. So next game, please have a look for the O. Easy task is this. The O can immediately be seen. So why is that? The reason is that our the visual cortex in our brain is able to recognize some patterns easier than other patterns. So this is a very important finding when it comes to visual design, to know how the brain works. So the O is definitely more distinctive from all the surroundings of the M's than the N is. Last game. This game is a little bit difficult as there's no clear answer, yes or no. So please look for the T in the following image. So some of you might see the T at the left side, some of you might see the T at the right side. Both is fine. Let me just explain. There's a psychological explanation of in which situations do you see the T on the left side and which ones you can see it on the right side. So some of you have seen it on the left side. If you see the T on the left side, you may be in a very positive emotional mood at this moment of time. You may be quite happy and in a good mood. Seeing the T on the right side means that you might be in not such a good mood today. You might be rather maybe sad, feeling tense, a little stressed. So why is that? On the left side, the T consists of many L's. So seeing the T on the left side means that you have to encourage your imagination because and your ability to associate, because the T is not visible as such. It consists of some else. Seeing the T on the right side means that you are more the pragmatic person because there are actually 6 T's shown on the right side. So this is a psychological theory which is called the broaden and build theory of positive emotions by Marie Fredrickson from 2008. And this is also interesting when it comes to product development. So Marie Fredrickson says that the positive emotions actually broaden our view on the things and they make us receptive for novel thoughts, for new activities, for new relationships. And they are building enduring personal resources. So this enhances our health, survival, and fulfillment. And very important, they are creating an upward spiral and a positive influence back on our positive emotions. So what we have seen in our research is that also when using websites, joy correlates with attention. Some of you might be familiar with eye tracking. So here you can see the eye tracking on 2 websites, on 2 portals. And at the same time, we measured also the emotional status of participants when looking at the websites. We are simply using the webcam for this and using the facial coding units. So when a user is smiling, this is counted as joy. So as we can see on the left side, the left website is able to attract more attention, but is also attracting more joy at the same time. So this is quite interesting. And Another psychological theory, which is the basis of this phenomenon, is invented by Daniel Kahneman. Maybe some of you know him. He says that we have two systems of how we perceive certain information. So our implicit and our explicit system. He's talking about system 1 and system 2. System 1 is the system which is always active. It can be compared with an autopilot. We are constantly perceiving information and also stimuli from the outside. And this system is very fast. It is able to do things in parallel, and it is very automatic, and it's the whole intuition which we are having. Our explicit system, system 2, we only switch it on when needed. This is the pilot, and this is a very reflective and cognitive system. So any kind of research which is working with questionnaires, asking people what they think about a certain product, is only targeting our system 2. And the system 2 is very limited, and it is slow, it is serial, and is almost not able to do two things at the same time. So this is why it is so important to get an idea about all the implicit system 1 we are having. So getting back to our model, as I already talked about the 3 dimensions that influence our actual usage of a product, you might ask yourself, what does this mean in terms of research? So let's give you an example of all the 3 dimensions. First of all, the explicit dimension, these are questionnaires, right? So these are questionnaires you might already know. There is the system usability scale, there's attractive, there are different scales to assess user experience. We at iSquare are using a system acceptance questionnaire, which is a questionnaire we are always using since almost 20 years in our research. And you can see it it assesses 2 dimensions. So there's a rather pragmatic dimension of user experience, efficiency, comprehensibility, overview, usability, and also the hedonic dimension. And for this questionnaire, we are having a large benchmark database. So this is very interesting when comparing your own product with other product. We could also say this is the terms we can compare it with the automotive industry, but also with other industries. So this is a typical example of an explicit data set. Let's come to the implicit data. So as I already told you, the implicit is a lot about the gut feeling. It's about our intuition. It's about the system 1, what we are spontaneously thinking and feeling. For this reason, iSquare invented a tool which is called the Brand React, which is based on reaction times. And some of you might maybe know the implicit association test, which is used in psychology. The Brand React is basically a shorter version of this. It is very playful, and users really like to do it. So what does it do? It is basically showing a certain brand with a logo. You could also put a product there. It could also use it as a product react. And then it displays certain attributes. And the user just has to say if he or she agrees or disagrees if this attribute matches the brand. In this case, does extraordinary match Hyundai? Yes, no. So we can do this on a desktop and also mobile devices. On the left side here, you can see a set of items we are using. So extraordinary you have seen here. It is belonging to different dimensions. These are the basic emotional needs of consumers: need for intensity, status, need for safety, need for sensuality, sustainability, and joy. So we are using a set of items coming from these different dimensions. And how do we do this? So the analysis is quite interesting because we don't only record if they agree or disagree. So they would agree, which is a positive response, and they disagree, which is a negative response. We also record the speed, how fast they agree or disagree. And then we can say that everything which is in the field of here in the middle, it would be on a scale from 0 to 100, around 50. These are slow responses. So this is a slow agreement or a slow disagreement. So actually, the slow responses don't wait so much as the fast responses do. So if somebody agrees quickly, the value would be rather 100. If somebody disagrees quickly, it would be by 0. And how do we display the results? Here you can see that that we transferred in a scale from 0 to 100, and the higher the amount is, it was a fast agreement, and the lower the amount is, it was a fast disagreement. So this is a very, very interesting tool, as it shows a lot more variance in the data. On the left side here, you can see the result on an explicit rating scale. It's the rating scale I just presented to you. You can see that between product 1, 2, and 3, there are hardly any differences, right? So product 3 shows a little better results regarding joy of use, while product 1 shows the weakest results. But these differences are not significant because they are just between 4 and 5 on a scale from 1 to 5. When it comes to implicit data, and as we can see here on the right side, the results of reaction time, we can see that we have more variance in the data, we have more significant differences between data. So product 1, for example, on the whole dimension of stimulation shows very weak results. It is also below 50, which means that these are all disagreements, right? And product 3, for example, shows very strong results in the field of stimulation. They are all mostly above 70, 80, which are quick agreements. So this is very interesting. And product 2 is basically here on the average. So just to show you how the gut feeling and the reaction time can deliver more powerful data than simple rating scales. When we talk about automotive systems, we also can use different item sets, right? So here we saw that we asked regarding balance, stimulation, and power, but we know from Mark Hassenzahl, who wrote his study in 2010, we know that there are different psychological needs in the terms of interactive products. So users also not only thrive for security, safety, and stimulation, which are new features, they also strive for competence. They want to feel safe and competent when using the interface. And also an interactive product has to provide them with a certain meaning in everyday life. So the car has to fulfill some need for meaning in everyday life. This gives us the opportunity to also use different item sets in this case. So what we are also doing is at I2, we are pioneers of eye tracking research. This is also maybe our name, I2, but we are not only doing eye tracking, as you could see already, but we have been doing eye tracking since 20 years now, and also in the field of automotive, it's very, very interesting. So here you can see the actual driving situation. The green dot is the eye movement of the driver. And when we are doing research, we can do an analysis how often actually the gaze moves from the street to the cockpit, which means how distracted is the driver while driving. Here you can see the touch screen of Tesla, and all the moments of interaction we can easily record with this kind of eye tracker. There you can also see that we are using a dash cam. The dash cam is recording the driver's face, so it makes us able to analyze emotions of driver and the facial expression. What we also did here on the right hand, you can see, maybe sometimes you can see it here. The driver is wearing a wristband. This is actually recording the electrodermal activity, which is the arousal, which is the stress level of the driver. So apart from driving, we are assessing a lot of physiological indicators while driving. And let me also show you how the software is automatically analyzing data, which is also very interesting. On the touch panel, it was maybe at the beginning, sorry, I have to, yeah, here you can see that it shows some heat maps. So the eye tracker is working with the pupil tracking, and because we put some visual markers here on the interface, the eye tracker can automatically analyze data in real time. So how does that look like in analysis? Here you can see a cockpit and the eye movements of maybe around 10 participants. This is aggregated data, and this is very interesting to see where are the hotspots of attention while using the car. These white dots that are plopping are interactions. So this software makes us able to record behavior very, very accurate and in a very nice visualized way as well. So in terms of analysis, just show you an impression of the heat map. The heat map aggregates the total amount of attention, and it shows you some hotspots of attention, right? So this would be the first impression when drivers enter a cockpit here, and you can see also in comparison between different models, we have MBUX, Audi A3, BMW 1, and Hyundai Santa Fe. You can see which elements attract attention. This is an interesting method regarding interior design studies, but also regarding usability studies, because you know where users look at and how they plan to solve a certain task. The heat map, I have to say, can sometimes be misleading, since it aggregates the total attention. So it looks nice, right? But here you may think, wow, the panel or the steering wheel for Hyundai is a very, very interesting element. But also if one person stares at this feature for a long time, it would be very red. This area would be very red. So what is also important is to see the quantitative result here, the average amount. So what we are doing is that we are dividing the cockpit in certain areas of interest. So these are the area of interest: infotainment, steering wheel, control panel, center console. So we are saying, okay, these areas are of interest, and then we can see here how many % of participants looked at a certain area. So this is a very valid result as well, and it gives us a clear hint which areas are very interesting at the beginning when exploring a cockpit initially, and which areas are maybe neglected or are explored later. I will show you some more eye tracking results now when we talk about best practices. I would like to show you some short results of a study of an implicit research to track in-vehicle user experience we did with Hyundai Motors. So what did we do in the study? We did a task-based user experience test with 30 participants in the US, 2-hour session time. We had tasks in dynamic and static condition, and we evaluated 3 cars. The main background was that we wanted to know how they deal with voice UI, and also to get a broader impression how they deal with voice UI and how they perceive the interfaces. We used implicit measures, because we thought that it may be interesting not only to ask people, because when we ask them, what do you think about voice UI? And they say, oh yeah, I really like it. I think voice UI is a very practical feature. Sometimes I have my issues, they don't really, the system doesn't understand me right, but voice UI in generally I really like, full stop. So, okay, this is what we find out with questionnaires. So here you can see the stimuli, the 3 cars which we tested, and this is an overview of the implicit measures we did. So first of all, we did eye tracking, what you already saw. We have the eye movement as an indicator. We used the lightest mobile eye tracking system, which is the pupil eye tracker, which I2 developed together with MIT, and it is basically working since it's tracking the pupil. And we also applied EEG. This is a tool which some of you also might know, which is used in automotive research to detect workload and emotional engagement, especially while doing primary and secondary tasks, and while checking on the distraction of the driver. So the EEG measures the brain activity, and it also creates 2 indicators, which is workload and engagement. Workload as a negative indication and engagement as a positive one. We also did facial emotion tracking. As you can see in the car, we put a dash cam filming the face of the user. Basically, this is the facial emotion tracking, and electrodermal activity is the wristband. It indicates the arousal. This is an example of an eye tracking analysis. Here you can see the visit counts. The visits display how many times the eye is revisiting a certain area. So we would put one area on the street and also areas inside the cockpit. So in this case, the driver's gaze went 6 times forth and back. So 6 times it visits the street, which is quite a high amount, talking about the driver's distraction during a certain task. Also, we have dwell time share. This metric is showing the amount of attention you paid on a certain, or the driver paid on a certain area. All the values sum up to 100. So out of the 100%, the driver spent 56% of his attention on the street, which is actually, when you think about that he or she is driving, it's just a little bit more than the half of the attention, which is actually a very, very low number, and which could actually also be dangerous. Of course, it depends on the task. It depends on if it's in a static or dynamic condition as well. Here you can see some results of EEG. As I said, it is measuring the workload and engagement. Generally, it is measuring a continuous stream of electrical brain waves, and these electric frequencies are linked to actions and different stages of consciousness. So you can see here the different car. We have car 1, car 2, and car 3, the cars we've already seen. And these A1 to 3, C3 are the different tasks. So we had navigation tasks, phoning tasks, and as you can see, for example, the car 3 involves a lot of workload and is showing the highest amount of workload through all the tasks, as it is also showing the lowest amount of engagement through all the tasks. Whereas car 2 seems to be easier to use, since it evokes a lower amount of workload throughout all the tasks, but a high amount of engagement. So engagement is a positive state, and is something very, a high involvement of the user. So talking about electrodermal activity, this is measuring the average electric resistance of the skin. We know that the level of electrodermal activity increases when we are feeling stressed, and it decreases when we are relaxed. So the higher level of peaks per minute, so this is actually a phasic analysis. There are certain peaks, and the peaks are always happening when, yeah, something on the street happens, when the driver is doing some action during the driving situation. And what we are doing is counting the number of peaks throughout a certain task. And we can see here that also the car 2, which before showed a lower workload, also shows the lowest amount of stress throughout all the tasks. So this is also an interesting physiological measure, which is very robust, as the EEG is very sensitive and is very prone to the outside and environmental influences. So if, for example, an ambulance is passing by, the EEG signal would also be influenced by this and might be distorted as well. While electrodermal activity is measuring the average electric resistance of the skin, and this is something very robust. Last but not least, we did facial emotion coding. As you can see here, a normal webcam is recording a 3D mask of the face. Paul Ekman already developed in the 60s the facial action coding units. He says that every human being and the feeling has basically 6 feelings: anger, disgust, fear, happiness, sadness, and surprise. And what we are doing here in this case of automotive research is that we are mainly working with surprise, happiness, and anger, which are the most strongly recognized feelings, and we are basically summing them up in positive and negative emotions. Let's show you 3 results of this study as well. So first of all, I can see here we have also some sound. This is the setup. There are different cameras. As you can see in the study, we have the camera which is filming from the back of the shoulder of the driver. We also have the eye tracking. We also have the dash cam of the face, which we are not showing at the moment due to data protection reasons. At the very bottom here, you can see the development of EEG and electrodermal activity as well in real time. So this video recording makes it possible to see, to also link certain peaks in the emotional development or the arousal to certain events that are happening inside the car. There's also a voice command task in the moment when speaking the voice. Here we have another peak. So there are also first some results. So first of all, what we did here is we had a look at the eye tracking. And the eye tracking, as I showed you, we are using the 12-time share. We can see the percentage of attention spent here on different areas. So during the phone task and also during the navigation task, even when using a voice command, participants still had to use the infotainment system inside the cockpit, right? So they could not solely solve the task by using voice. As we can see here, 22% of attention and 12% of attention on the panel. But also there is quite low attention on the street. For the phone task, it is a little bit better. There, 82% of attention is spent on the road. But as we can see, the navigation task, 50% of the time the driver had a look at the road, but at the other times he looked inside the car, which means that the navigation task was not so successful using voice UI solely. The driver had to use a lot the navigation system here. So eye tracking showed us the scattered eyes and how the attention was during the tasks. So also what we did here was the remembering numbers is hard. So we compared the car H and the car C. With the car H, there was also a lot of visits on the street and visits on the navigation system here. On the car H, there was just a different system how the voice input was made. With the car H, the user had to talk many times where he wanted to go and what was dialed. And with the car C, the car was confirming the input of the user, which was actually very helpful at the end. The drivers are eager to be confirmed by the system when they speak numbers. Last but not least, we can see here that when users have a lot of interaction with the car, with the touch screen, they get quite stressed. So this is the task here, the R2, where we have analyzed the electrodermal activity, which is the stress level when using certain features. So turn on the radio by touchscreen, for example, and we can see a quite high amount of stress compared to the other tasks, which is especially true for car 1 and car 3. So what are the key takeaways of this research and also of my presentation today? First of all, we have to face automotive contacts. Automotive contacts are important when it comes to user experience research. We, on the one hand, have cognitive distractions which come from the road, but also real-time information the driver has to process. And also we have the multitasking issue. First of all, we want to drive, but we want to get informed later. And it was very interesting in this case to combine explicit and implicit methods. So both sides of these insights are equally important. And also when we did quantitative modeling of these factors, we see that both explicit and implicit methods equally explain the variance of data. Measuring implicit also means in context. When we do implicit methods, they have to be natural by definition. So always we have to record them in the real moment of interaction, in the real moment of driving. And this means that we have a high data load and sometimes also a complicated time series data we have to analyze. But it is very crucial to also take a look at this real-time behavioral data. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. And I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Carina, for your talk. Let's start with the Q&A. I guess we already have some questions coming in, so I would pass to Leonie to guide you through the Q&A.
Thanks, Ayrton. I will take over for the Q&A session. To all participants, I would also like to encourage you to send in your questions now, as Carina has kindly agreed to take the time to answer them. And Carina, I will start right now with the first ones we already have in. Do you see any cultural differences regarding technology acceptance? And if so, which ones? Carina?
Oh, I guess we have some audio problems here.
Yeah.
Okay. There you are.
Carina, were you able to hear me right now?
No, I just heard you right now.
Okay, then I will just read out the first question that we have for you. Do you see any cultural differences regarding technology acceptance, and if so, which ones?
Yeah, we do see cultural differences regarding technology acceptance. We know that talking about adoption of interfaces, we know that Asian users are early adopters or even innovators when it comes to technical features. We've learned that when we did research in Korea or in China, and regarding Germany, sometimes they are still some late adopters, and maybe UK and US are in the middle of this. So this is very important when we do research, of course. So we always have to look at the cultural background. Nevertheless, our clients are developing products which are for the global market. So we have to consider different adoptions of technology, of course, in product development.
Thank you for expanding on that. Then I will jump to the second question about your research. How many participants would you usually invite to take part in automotive UX studies?
Yeah, it depends, of course, on the research question. So when you want to get some user feedback regarding different features, it would be enough also to test 6 or 8 respondents to do a qualitative approach. But when it comes to measuring also EEG data, as I already showed, EDA, and also some physiological data, we always recommend to test 30 participants, as then we can also do some statistic relevant analysis of data.